Suffering does not destroy you. It reveals you to yourself. When you are at your lowest, that is when you come to know who you really are. You may be kind when everything's going well, but are you kind when everything's going bad? You may say you'd never do that, fill in the blanks, but when a certain situation arises, are you sure you won't do that? We do not come to know ourselves through prosperity, but we come to know ourselves through how we act when we are suffering, how we act when we are stress tested, when we are put in a stressful situation. I've talked about how to get pure gold, if there's any impurities in it, you have to heat it up. And I think we can view one's character in the same way. If you have impurities in your character, if you have faults, they come to the surface when you are, quote unquote, put through the fire, when you are heated up, when you are put into a stressful situation. And that is when you come to know yourself. You come to know what you really value, and you come to know if you actually practice what you preach. Now, if you are in one of these situations and you do not act as, let's say, you hoped you would have acted, that is not something to despair about. Rather, it calls for rejoicing because you've become aware of a area that you are underdeveloped and you need to work on, you need to improve upon. And the only way you can come to know where these areas are is when you are put through difficult situations. And I also want to stress the point that I think to a certain degree, both extremes of suffering and prosperity bring out your true character. Maybe suffering more than prosperity, but nonetheless, prosperity still, money. There's the saying, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And in many cases, that is very true. But in the case of Marcus Aurelius, that is not true. That was a man with absolute power. And the first thing Marcus Aurelius did with absolute power was give half of it away. So he didn't have absolute power. He did not let it corrupt him. So rather, power brings out who you really are. If a great man gets great power, his greatness will be that much more obvious. And if a bad man gets power, his badness will be that much more obvious. And I think suffering is the same way. If a good man suffers, his goodness will be even more obvious. And if a bad man suffers, his badness will be even more obvious. So many people can say and criticize millionaires who have all this money and buy things they don't need and so on and so forth. But these people cannot be sure that in the same situation, they would not do the same thing. They can't be sure that they would not hoard material possessions instead of give to the needy. But they act as if they would. And these are the same people who say, crunch the numbers and say, yeah, he gave $1 million to charity, but that's only 1% of what he's worth. He's worth $100 million. But these same people, do the calculations, and they say, if I gave 1% of what I was worth to charity, that'd only be, $200 or $300. But then they've never given $200 or $300 to charity. That's not the point of this video, though. The point is to view suffering as a revealer, not a destroyer, as something to help you see your faults, something that helps you understand where you need improvement and understand where, when things go south, where you are most likely to falter. And it's good that this happens to us, because it's good that this happens to us before a very horrible situation, let's say, because it's better to get these things under control when the consequences are small than realize that there's a problem when the consequences are massive. It's not easy to reframe the mind when you are suffering, to say that this is happening for me and not to me, that this is revealing me, not destroying me. But it is truly a conscious, willful act that you have to do. If you don't apply a conscious effort to say that your suffering is in service to a greater good, it will destroy you. But if you can allow it to reveal you and allow it to happen for you, I believe you will come out better, and you will scrape some of those impurities off the surface, and you will get closer to becoming pure. And as I said on this channel before, it's so much more about subtraction than addition. The Bible talks about becoming childlike, and many, many lots of wisdom literature says the same thing. You must become childlike again, regain your childlike curiosity and your childlike awe and your childlike questioning attitudes and things of that nature. And all we've done since we were children was add. So to become childlike again, to become curious, awful, like awe-inspiring, but awful, not awful. I think you get the point. We need to subtract. We do not need to add. We don't need to add anything. So often it's reminding ourselves the things we already know, not gaining new information. So allow suffering to reveal you instead of destroy you, and you will come out a better person. You will come out with more resources and more confidence that the next time you go through a hardship, you will bear it you will bear it nobly. Allow suffering to reveal you, not destroy you.